here on the East Coast, so we're going to get started with our live career Q&A. Thank you so much for joining us from wherever you are in the world. Please go ahead and share with us where you're watching from, as I'd love to see. I'm here in the Washington, D.C. area in the U.S., and I know we have people watching all over the world, so please share. And also feel free, don't be afraid to share any career challenge you might be experiencing currently or recently, because this is great when we can all learn from each other and share that knowledge. Throw those in the comments. Also, throw any of your burning career and job search questions there too. It could be on any topic, not necessarily related to what I'm going to discuss today. Everything is fair game. Stick it in the comments and I'll come back to it in a moment. At the end, I will also be posting a link below in the comments with a link to our video tutorial, which is about 10 minutes and focuses on the 3 things you really should keep in mind to help you narrow down your job search. So it's a challenge a lot of people experience. It's free, take it or leave it. It'll sign you up for our newsletter as well, where you'll get weekly job search advice. And if you don't want that, you can unsubscribe at any time. No hard feelings here. So let's get started. This is a discussion I actually had just this week with a client, and it comes up again and again every time, especially doing mock interviews with folks. So often, right, we go into an interview and we think that we have to sell ourselves, and that's the only thing, the purpose of our being there. And we worry so much about what the employer and the interviewers are going to think of us. We forget to think about how important it is that they create a good impression for us. And we downplay that and don't feel like that's important. And that's not the case. So, just like in a hiring process, how the company is paying very close attention to you and the way you handle the process, the way you handle communications, everything from phone to email to the Zoom or Skype interview, whatever it is, um, that is something they pay attention to or should pay attention to if they're not, in order to figure out what kind of person this candidate is. You should be doing the same thing. You can call it due diligence or whatever you like, but it's a two-way street. You need to be checking out the company as you go as well. Excuse me. So, in this example, somebody was talking about how the responses the lack of response they got in rescheduling an interview and how that was frustrating. That can tell you a lot about a place, the culture. Maybe it is just that one person who's causing an issue, but you really need to pay attention to those signs. So here are several areas where you might not think of it, but are really important to pay attention. The first thing is literally the response you get to your application, right? I mean, most of the time you're getting either nothing, which is not great, or a canned response saying you are qualified or you're not qualified, we would like to schedule an interview or whatever. Um, Pay attention to that response, and whether you do get a response, right? The second is in setting up interviews. What is that interaction like? Is the person easy to deal with, excuse me, or difficult? What type of impression are you getting there? The third is the actual interviews. Are you feeling, like you're welcome there, like they're invested in you as a potential employee? It's not perfect. People can be having a bad day, so sometimes you have to take that into consideration. Scheduling things can happen on their end. These are all life and work things that happen. I'm not saying that that's something to be immediately dismissive of, but where I think you have to be careful is, how are they treating you? Like, is this a place that really treats their people well? And that can reflect in the way that they present themselves to you, because that's their reputation and they need to attract candidates to them. And if they want good people like you, they have their work to do too. The fourth is really the follow up post interview. Is that something that has gone well? Are they responding and keeping you updated on status or not? Um, pay attention to that. How is that interaction going? The fifth is the offer, which of course is a big one. Um, how has it been presented? Is it in line with what you discussed during the process? Has it changed? Are they open to negotiation or not? That might tell you a lot. Again, keep in your mind there are other variables, there are other people involved that you're not seeing in these discussions behind the scenes, but do pay attention to how that process of the offer is going. And the last piece, the sixth part is if you have follow-up questions when you receive an offer and you ask them, hey, can I go talk to other people on the team? Or can I speak to the manager again? How do they respond? Do they say, sure, of course, let me get you hooked up with a couple different people? Or are they saying, that's not our policy. I'm sorry, we can't do that. You really have to think about that because if they have given you an offer, at that point, you're somebody that they're saying, hey, we really liked you. We think you'd be a great part of the team. We want to invest in you. We want you to come on board. And then if they're putting up a fence and saying, no, we're not going to let you talk to other people who work here or consider more of your questions to help you make sure this is a mutual fit for both of us, you got to wonder what's going on there, right? So sometimes some of these things you can feel out through this whole process I just went through really will help you decide whether this is a good cultural fit as a company or not. Are these the kind of people you want to work with or not? Sometimes it's a blessing in disguise when things don't go farther. And then once you take a step back and say, well, yeah, something was really wrong with this process, or I wasn't getting responses to my questions or they weren't being direct, maybe that says something about the company. So pay attention to all these different pieces from start to of your application submission to the end, the offer, and really evaluate, take a step back and say, okay, how did I feel about this? Was there anything wrong at any part of this process? Or were there things out of their control? It seemed like where, maybe it could have gone different if someone was having a better day. But really check that because it's just as important as you selling yourself to the company that they sell themselves well to you. So I hope that was helpful. Please drop your questions into the comments. We've got some more time here, so I'm happy to answer any questions at all. Again, it can be about career, job search, anything, any follow-ups to what I just talked about as far as really paying attention to how the company treats you in the whole application and interview process. Here for that 10-minute free tutorial. Again, it will sign you up for our newsletter, which goes out weekly with job search advice and tips and resources, and even job spotted recently, but you can unsubscribe at any time. So wait for any questions. I'll just make one more comment about this subject. When the company in this way and say, after whether you're in the interview piece or at the end, if you get an offer and you're evaluating and doing your due diligence and how they're treating you and how they respond to you and so forth, really think about some good questions you can ask. And I might have shared this before, or you may have seen this elsewhere, but some of those questions you can go back and ask the people there or others on the team once you get an offer would be things like, what is something you love about working there? And what is something you would change? There's different variations you can ask of that question, but it's one of my favorites, and I probably sound like a broken record, but that can tell you so much about a company culture, about the management. Um, Even if they're giving you what feels like a very canned answer, you can pretty much see beyond that and infer, okay, something else is going on here. They're not sharing, and I feel uncomfortable about it. Or That's something that wouldn't bother me at all in a company, right? Like, it might bother that person, but wouldn't bother me. Or it could be the opposite, right? They might say they love something and you say, ugh, I never want to work in a place like that again, right? Like, I'm done with consulting. So you really need to think about that too and ask some questions that really drive home what you're looking for and trying to figure out about a company culture. So that's a good one to keep in your back pocket. Questions right now. So if you do have them later, feel free to post and I'm happy to answer them even offline. But thank you for joining us. We will be with you again next Friday, same time, 12 noon Eastern, and I look forward to seeing you then. Have a great weekend and a great week, everybody. Take care.